So daily Parsha insight for Wednesday the 19th of ER. Countering spiritual entropy. There's a pasuk in this week Parshas Behar Bechuksai 25:39, chapter 25, verse 39. It says like this: "V'chiyomu chochicho imoch v'nimkar loch lo yisabed boy avodas oved." If your brother becomes destitute with you, and he is indentured to you, becomes your slave, you must not make him work like a bondman. Based on the sequence of laws in this parsha, we are taught that should we not refrain from agricultural pursuits during the 7th year, we will eventually be forced to sell our assets. If you're not going to keep the mitzvah of allowing the land to rest on the sabbatical year, the Shemitah year, which would lead, God forbid, to poverty, the people would have to sell themselves as slaves because they didn't keep the 7th year.
Well, I don't understand when you do that, whatever way you're doing things. 1
second. Then our inheritance, then our home, then to borrow on interest, and ultimately have to indenture ourselves as bond servants to a fellow Jew, then to a Gentile, and then as an attendant in the service of idolatry. This process depicts the depth to which a human being can sink when, on account of his subservience to what he perceives to be the irresistible laws of nature, he persists in his defiance to God's law. As a preemptive antidote to this, the Parsha opens with a reminder of the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. This reminder is meant to inspire us and instruct us how to overcome the skepticism and materialism whose results are detailed in the rest of the Parsha. It is the Torah, our link to God's unlimited, infinite will, that endows us with the ability to overcome the limitations of nature and the natural mentalities of our environment. The spiritual bond we forge with God through studying the Torah and observing its commandments afford us the strength necessary to break out of the downward cycle of spiritual degeneration, giving us the freedom to maximize our spiritual potential and fulfill our unique divine mission to the fullest. With that, we'll discuss the portion on Geula. During this year of Yovel, which is the Jubilee year, you shall return each man to his estate. So there was no such a thing back then, you selling your land. You selling your land was meant you're leasing it until the Yovel, until the Jubilee year. If the Jubilee year comes, your land has to go back. The land you bought comes back to you. The land you bought goes back to the seller. The land you sold goes back to you.
When you say land, are we only talking about farmland? Or are we talking about in today's time of anything?
No. Back then, you had ancestral land. Let's say you should, from the tribe of Reuven, you had parcel of land was given to you. Didn't have money, you sold your land to me.
Okay.
I'm from the tribe of Menashe.
Okay.
Right? So now, the Jubilee year kicks in, I have to give you back the land.
Do you pay to give it back, or you just leave?
No, it just the ownership goes back to you automatically. You become the owner of the land, even though I paid you for the land. It goes back to you. That's the power of the Yovel. So that's what I said. There was really no such a thing as selling the land. It was more of leasing it. So if I take your land and I know that the Yovel is in 2040, so I know that I'm only getting the land for 20 years and I'm paying you accordingly because I know I'm getting it only for 20 years.
Okay. But what about when we do with the 7 years with the fruits and vegetables, right?
No, the thing with Shemitah is, the Shemitah is different because 7 years, right? The 7th year you have to let the land has to rest, but 7 times 7 leads to Yovel.
Okay.
So that's the 50th year. So you can have the 49th year another Shemitah, sabbatical, and then it leads to Yovel.
Okay.
But the whole idea of Shemitah and Yovel required a lot of faith. There's 2 types of faith. There's a faith where you are concerned, but you follow because Hashem told you, but you don't know how it's. If your livelihood comes from agriculture,
Right.
and if you're not going to sow and not going to harvest, you're not going to have money.
Right.
So Hashem says, I know that you might have that concern, so I'm telling you already that on the 5th year and the 6th year, I'm going to give you triple the amount. You'll have enough money for the 7th year.
Okay. What about the actual?
So if
Assuming
it says that if someone believed without questioning, he will be sustained miraculously. If someone had concerns and he thought, well, I don't know, I'm doing it, but I'm scared, then he is going to be sustained, but not to the same degree of the other person.
So
the one who had,
you would get, hopefully,
you'll have enough to carry you throughout the 7th year, and you'll have enough money until you have a chance to sow again and to harvest in the 8th and 9th year. So Hashem makes it, even now till this very day, farmers in Israel are testifying that they see it.
Okay.
That those who keep Shemitah,
They're still keeping it today?
yeah.
Wow. So
You're not allowed to buy. You're not allowed to buy from a farmer in Israel who doesn't keep Shemitah. Kashrus wise, it's a problem. That's why in Israel you have kashrus on vegetables. Not that the vegetable has mixture of meat and dairy, but that the vegetables are not tithed, and you're not allowed to eat something that is not tithed. The vegetables can be from Shemitah. Somebody did not follow the ways of the Torah, and he did plant his field, and now he's selling you tomatoes. You can't just buy his tomatoes because they are from Shemitah. Allowed to take tomatoes if they just grew by themselves, but somebody is violating the laws of Shemitah, it's a problem to buy from him. So it's not so simple to buy. I remember when I one time came to Israel, I saw on my way from the airport to the house, I saw a booth selling fruits. I stopped, I bought something, and continued. I got home, my father said to me, how do you know he gave Maisa? And then I didn't think, you live here, you don't think about these things. You get there, so who said the guy gave Maisa? So anyhow, so it says some servant, let me just finish, it says some servant serve their masters. So what is so that was during the Yovel, the Jubilee year, the 50th year, you shall return each man to his estate. That's your inheritance, it goes back to you. Now, when the shofar announces the Yovel, it blew the shofar to announce the Yovel, all slaves are set free. If somebody was sold as a slave, he is free. Similarly, the entire Jewish nation will be freed from their enslavement to the exile. We are all enslaved to this exile, so we'll be set free when the Yovel comes. With the shofar blessed that heralds the arrival of Mashiach, some servants serve their master for reward, others serve altruistically. What's altruistically? Shmuel? Without any,
you're not doing it for any.
You're not doing it for any agenda.
Right.
Hashem wants I do it. That's it. altruistically. Those motivated by reward are referred to as God's servants. The altruistic are called God's sons. Sons, you help your father not because he's going to give you a candy. You help him because he's your father.
Unconditionally.
Right, so that's altruistic.
Okay.
So those who serve Hashem because they'll be rewarded, they are Hashem's servants.
Okay.
Those who serve Hashem because they love Him, they are Hashem's sons. They are called Hashem's sons. Be son, don't be a servant. Although there's Chassidus explained that there's really a mila, there's a greatness in both to be called the servant and to be called the son also. It says about Moshe Rabbeinu.
Does that mean
Moshe Rabbeinu says, Avdi Nemanu b'chol beis. Hashem called Moshe Rabbeinu a servant. Aved Neman, a faithful shepherd. Anyhow, but they have to, those that we see that are much greater to do it altruistically. Do it like a son. When Mashiach comes, the servants will travel to Eretz Yisrael through natural means. Serve Hashem like a servant. Buy yourself a flight. Buy yourself a ticket. Fly to Israel. Find natural means to get there. While the sons will be transported supernaturally on the wings of the heavenly angels. They have a much nicer ride if you serve Hashem like a son. Buchim to you.